The city of Prague is over 1,000 years old, but that doesn't mean that it's behind the times or old-fashioned. It might surprise you to learn that Prague is considered the most cryptocurrency-friendly city in the world. That was a surprise to me, and since I don't really know very much about cryptocurrency, I thought I'd ask someone I know who does. That is Maya Bersheva, community manager for the Czech Republic for Binance, one of the largest or the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world. Hello, Maya.
Hi, Derek. Thank you very much for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on, and thank everybody for listening to this episode of Prague Times. A city is much more than just a collection of buildings. It's a location, it's a history, it's a culture, it's ideas and ideals, and a city is also, most importantly, the people in it. This is Prague Times, the podcast that takes a look at the city of Prague in the Czech Republic. With more than 1,000 years of history, there's a lot to talk about. We'll talk about the past of Prague, but we'll also talk about the city as it is today, future plans for the city, and much more. It's Prague then, Prague now, and Prague later. And this is Prague Times. Cryptocurrency, virtual cash. What the heck is cryptocurrency? Because I don't really get it. I don't know if you have Netflix. I just watched this episode of a show called Explained that's on Netflix, which is about 30-minute primer on cryptocurrency. I still don't really get it.
That's probably a question that tortures quite a lot of people, especially now when Bitcoin is one of the top keywords searched in Google. My favorite explanation is actually if you imagine the, let's say, 100 crowns bill, each of the notes has the little number. So if you imagine that there is a decentralized ledger that contains all the information of all the banknotes that are being in circulation, and if you, for example, like obviously the central bank can track every note, right? But apart from the centralized currencies, crypto doesn't have one unified authority who issues it. So it's been the information about these banknotes, let's say, is stored on the network of the computers. And the best thing about it, the most interesting thing about it is actually, I mean, if you imagine that all of those numbers, all of those notes, Bitcoins, let's say, can be tracked and everybody can know when this particular note, when it was spent, which wallet it belongs to, it makes the entire network transparent and also preserves the privacy. And this is what differs from the normal money, from having a bank account, let's say. It's very transparent, but still very private.
But I think that's where the mind kind of starts to go, how is that possible? Because my understanding is instead of like the bank and the government being the only authority who has information on these currency units, everybody has it. The whole net, all of that information is distributed throughout the network. So how can that be and privacy is also maintained? Because it seems like cash is the most anonymous thing in the world, right?
Well, the key is the distribution, because the ledger is distributed and it's been stored, as I said, like on the number of the networks. It is also encrypted. So each of us, let's say, we all have part of the information, but we can only decipher it if we are working all together. Blockchain means that if other participants of the blockchain are confirming that this information is trustworthy, right? This is the main logic behind the blockchain.
Basically, we're all watching each other's backs, basically.
Yes, we are, but we also respect each other's privacy.
Gotcha.
You also need to distinguish Bitcoin and blockchain, right? Bitcoin is the name of the currency and is the first cryptocurrency, while blockchain is basically the technology, and most of the cryptocurrencies are using that technology. In fact, some people might not know, but the most popular blockchain is actually the IBM blockchain, which is centralized though. So blockchain is not necessarily decentralized. There are a lot of centralized blockchains that are being used by the great companies, let's say shipping companies, so they can track the information about the parcels, about, I don't know, like the flowers that are being transported, and it collects the information about when the flowers are going bad, what license it has. So it's basically a more advanced way to store the data if the database is not enough for you. This is what blockchain is.
It's like a distributed database that updates everywhere at once.
Exactly. So it's trustworthy, it's eligible, and there is like lower risk that it can be either somehow misused or amended because it's been stored on multiple computers, I think,
Gotcha.
when it comes to decentralized.
I know cryptocurrency is certainly part of what's known as cryptoanarchy, this idea that we can use cryptographic software and computer technology to spread information, make sure that information remains free as opposed to being controlled by governments and things like this. And a lot of different organizations and places that kind of have these crypto anarchy ideals very much embrace blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Is cryptocurrency a way to further those ideals, or did those concepts come out of the existence of cryptocurrency? Which one came first?
I believe the concept of crypto obviously came first, and then it was picked up by the community of crypto anarchists. Actually, Prague is very unique in terms of that, and there is a famous Institute of Cryptoanarchy of Paralelní Polis in Prague that actually deals with decentralization, open source knowledges, darknet market, and basically like the more open access to the information. Like the best way to learn about those things is to visit Paralelní Polis. It's in Chodešovice. To have a coffee. The guys will teach you how to get your first crypto using the crypto ATM.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have an ATM, right? So I can go in with cash, stick it in the machine, and get a card that says, okay, you have 2/100ths of a Bitcoin, and that's your coffee.
You will have fractions of Bitcoin
Yeah.
currently. But actually, there was a funny story that back in 2015, one guy came to Paralelní Polis for a cup of coffee because they give you the paper card either in Litecoin or Bitcoin. And actually, that guy went to Paralelní Polis. He had coffee. He completely forgot about it. And then after the latest Bitcoin bull run, he ended up having like few thousands of crowns because Bitcoin grew.
That's one of those like, that was the best cup of coffee I've ever had.
It is. Prague is also the home of the biggest cyberpunk event, Hackers Congress. I was very lucky to help with the preparation of it. It is definitely a place to learn about the new technologies. And as I said, if people are sharing knowledge for free, and you can even visit the events that they organize, where people like, with common ideas can gather and share their thoughts on digital freedom, which I'm personally also a very big fan of, let's say. I first got involved in 2011. I used to work in a payment system, like the money remittance company, and we started to onboard the exchanges 1 year after Bitcoin was actually created. So those days, Bitcoin really didn't cost anything. And to be honest, it wasn't really associated with anything good. And now it's absolutely different. There are more than 55 million crypto wallets in the world. The number of crypto wallets is growing every day. And actually, if you compare today with those times, now I think half of the Bitcoins being spent is actually spent on buying goods, right? Like shopping.
That's the interesting thing. I found this list from Fortune Jack. I guess it's probably about a year old, maybe 2 years old. And this is why they say Prague is the #1 cryptocurrency city in the world. 154 venues in the city of Prague accept payment in Bitcoin, including 18 shops, 18 restaurants and cafes. There are 12 ATMs. You can use it on some forms of transportation, sports. You can use it at some hotels and nightclubs. Like it's kind of interesting that this brand new concept in currency really takes off in Prague of all places. Like I understand the other places on the list, San Francisco, London, Madrid, New York, Vienna, Berlin, sure. But the Czechs are really taking to this.
And it all started with that little Bitcoin cafe in Chodešovice.
So they're really, Paralelní Polis is the first.
They're pioneering, yeah. They are actually one of the very first places in Europe. So it's Prague, Berlin, and I think one of the top is Ljubljana. So the way I usually call it, if Ljubljana is Paris in terms of crypto, then Prague is Venice. So those two countries. Yeah, and it's like the most romantic cities and the most crypto cities. If you ask me why, I think it's also because of the very strong tech background of Czech people in general. A lot of like tech minds, great tech companies are originating. Another reason is definitely this Paralelní Polis that combines technology, art, and science. And also Czech Republic is the motherland of some legendary crypto companies, like the first cold wallet, Trezor, the first mining pool, the greatest crypto ATM chains. It's all originating from Czechia, mainly from Prague.
I wonder too if it isn't because the Czechs really do love their freedom. I mean, they love this idea, and of course, it's reasonable when you consider, that this used to be communist. But there are plenty of other post-communist countries in Europe that are not quite so, hey, stay out of my business, like the Czechs are. The Czechs really are into, leave me alone, let me live my life, I'll pay my taxes, and then otherwise shut up and let me do what I want to do the way I want to do it. And I wonder if that attitude has helped create a fertile ground for these cryptoanarchy and cryptocurrency concepts to flourish.
I think it's also about being a digital nomad, right? It is also about preserving your privacy, about this digital freedom. And actually, I know a guy who's not using the bank account for the banking products actually for more than 6 years. He is running completely crypto. His name is Amin Rafi. I think he's Australian, but he lives in Europe, as far as I know. In crypto space, the location is not a topic. We are everywhere. We are nowhere and we are everywhere since we are digital and the world is digital. But as far as I know, he used to cooperate with the Euro Commission because you probably also heard of the digital euro experiment. The European Central Bank was experimenting. So we might expect there will be no cash, there will be no paper, no plastic. And I think COVID really speed up the digitalization of the world. So obviously it's already here. Crypto is not something that is far away. It's already here. It's part of our life.
And you think this is going to spread? This is going to be one of the defining things of the 21st century?
Definitely, because you can find crypto has a lot of aspects. Each of us can find what he or she loves the most about crypto. So in my case, for example, I'm originating from the remittance business. For me, it's the perfect way for cross-border operations, for the cross-border payments. It's the best way to pay the freelancer who lives in Thailand, right? It's the best way to choose where you want to live. And it's very cheap because it's not going through a bunch of banks and all this SWIFT system, the very heavy one.
Because there's no profit sort of idea attached to it, right? It's not like, hey, and I'm going to take a piece of this for the transaction, and by the time it moves down all the way to the customer in classic capitalism, there's quite a hefty amount of money added to the consumer side cost of things. Whereas this is much more like, hey, we're just using this as a medium of exchange and there's no middleman who's taking a piece.
Yes, so it's the network and the network maintains itself. You don't have to have expensive software. You don't have to have branches, pay the employees. This is probably purely the economy. In a couple of years, we will see more regulation of cryptocurrencies.
Isn't that counter the idea, though?
It is very much contradictory towards the idea of crypto. Yes, it is. But I think in the end, it will be pretty much regulated, to be honest.
And then what? Then the banks will just take their little cut and it'll just become another form of traditional money, right?
No, I think it's just there will be decentralized finance companies flourishing, but it still will be very well regulated because the purpose of the regulation is not to track the people, but I think there is nothing bad in knowing your customer. It's about the safe neighborhood. This is what I think it is going to be. It will prevent the misuse of crypto. The reason why some people are afraid of it, though it is a beautiful technology, very useful one in the digitalized world, is basically the misuse of it. The ICOs, you probably heard of that. This did a very bad job for the crypto industry because a lot of people actually lost their investment. So I think it will prevent the misuse, the way, the fact that it is spent on the wrong things, sort of, right? I'm not going to name all the possible ways of using crypto.
Well, the most famous one, this is the one that everybody talks about, because the traditional media, kind of the conservative media, kind of just says, "Oh, this is new and it's creepy," and "Oh, and look, and that dark web website Silk Road was using it, and you could buy drugs and guns and things like that using cryptocurrency. So therefore, cryptocurrency must be bad." But you can use other money to buy those things as well. It's not cryptocurrency's fault that people misused it.
You can use cash to do the same, but we don't blame cash. We know it's going to be existing. And when it comes to crypto, we know that it's going to be there, simply because it sorts out a lot of problems of the current world, like especially for the people who are unbanked or underbanked, right? Crypto is the only solution.
What meaning what? Like I don't have a bank account?
You don't want to have a bank account, or a bank doesn't want you. That's also possible. For example, even a few years ago, I think it wasn't possible to open a bank account for an expat living in the UK. I believe banking system in Czech Republic is quite developed. And in most of the countries still you can transact among, like the domestic payments are actually paid, not free, as it is in the Czech Republic. Even in Russia, you still pay for transferring between the banks. So from that point of view, I think Czech banking system is quite developed. And we have a lot of digital banks, right, that are actually taking a bigger cut of the market. But I honestly haven't heard of any limitations from the bank side. I think it's pretty much open to everyone. But the only thing I know, as an expat, you can only open a bank account if you have dlouhodobý pobyt, which is long-term visa. You cannot run business in the Czech Republic without having a bank account.
Yeah.
That's the same. So it's not only about your physical presence in the Czech Republic, but also your economic activities. It's the rating, and Czech Republic is in the top 50, if I'm not mistaken, even. Yeah, the rating of economic freedom, which means that it is easy to start business. It is quite easy to run these economic activities. The most interesting thing for me about crypto is use cases of crypto, how it can be used, because it is quite changing the paradigm of how we perceive things. So for example, if there wouldn't be crypto, if you take this Brave browser, where people are being paid for watching ads, and they are paid with tokens for watching ads. So it's a totally different logic from Google, when the advertisers are paying the companies and the companies is using the personal data to show the ads, right? To pick those target group. Here, it's totally different logic. It's more developed, I would say, and you can now be paid for watching ads. Isn't that fair? If you are educated about the product, then you're becoming an influencer and a brand advocate. So then you can spread the word about good things, like good values of each particular product. As I said, these P2P transactions, it doesn't need a middleman for money to be transferred. This is absolutely fascinating, in the crypto industry. That technology is eventually heading to the countries where it is really needed. For example, the company I work for, largest crypto exchange by volume, called Binance. If you are in crypto for more than 20 seconds, you've probably heard of Binance. We do have the charity fund that is helping people in Africa. But the reason is why it is flourishing in Africa is because banking system is in ruins, basically.
Right.
The local currency doesn't cost anything. People don't trust the banks. So for them, crypto is the only solution, and they trust crypto more than their local currency. I think the reason why we ended up in such a bad situation is because the governments were not controlled. They were issuing the money, right? Not being able to handle your own economy. They were deciding to print out just more paper. With crypto, with blockchain, with Bitcoin, especially with Bitcoin, right? Because not all of the cryptocurrencies are decentralized. There are centralized cryptocurrencies. And with Bitcoin, it's just impossible. You always know how many Bitcoins are in the circulation. You cannot simply make more than there are.
Right. There's a finite amount of these things.
Yeah, that's why it is actually sometimes more trustworthy than the local currencies. Because why Venezuela, Nigeria ended up in such a bad situation was actually the governments misusing their right of printing out the money. Why someone can have a monopoly on issuing the money? This is the thing. Why shall it be the government? The developing countries are really in need of an alternative of the money, digital money. Like, we are from developed countries. We live in Europe. And I think in Europe, crypto is mainly an investment tool. Most people are investing into it. And when it comes to, it's a great investment. Crypto, especially Bitcoin, is a good investment.
I mean, how risky is it?
For the long-term investment, I think it's very good. The ROI is actually bigger than the stocks of the deep tech companies, let's say Apple, Amazon. But you should invest in crypto first of it. That applies on all the investments. You can only invest what you are okay to lose, right? In order not to be disappointed if you invest in crypto, especially Bitcoin, as I said, be ready that this is the midterm investment. Let's say, forget about it for 3-5 years. We are heading to the point when people will be perceiving Bitcoin, like one Bitcoin will worth of one Bitcoin, right? One Ethereum will worth of one Ethereum. So it will be less speculation about money, and it will be more about the values it brings and the use cases.
Now, let's say that, I read up on this stuff, and note to people listening, check the show notes, episode notes for links to all of these things we're talking about and all these websites and places that we're talking about. Let's say I hear this and I think, ooh, this sounds like something, a world I want to be involved in. I live in Prague. I want to get involved in this scene, not just from a money perspective, but because I agree with the principles and philosophy behind it. What can we do?
First of all, you need to get yourself a wallet, right? The place where you will be storing your crypto. It can be a physical wallet, for example, Trezor or Ledger. Trezor is a Czech company. Consider maybe porting that. Next, or maybe even the first one, you need to find the reliable exchange you will buy crypto from. Or it can also be an ATM, for example. In Prague, there are a lot of crypto ATMs that work both ways for withdrawal and crypto purchases. So after you buy it, make sure you store it. If you want to earn on speculate with it, then consider learning some basics of trading. And I think it is very important, it is super important to know the security perks when it comes to crypto, because this is a lot about your safety. You need to be very careful. You need to know when you're storing your private keys, basically the entrance, because as we say in crypto, not your keys, not your money. There is a great movie. It's called 55,000 Bitcoins, if I'm not mistaken. And when the guy suddenly ended up having a lot of Bitcoin, and he actually transferred it to the wrong address, because if you don't copy it properly, then your money is gone. Yeah, and if you're transferring your Bitcoin to, let's say, Litecoin, let's say Ethereum address, you might also end up losing it. So you need to be especially careful. You need to understand that it is money, and you also store your money really carefully, right? You store your bank cards, you store your passwords from your internet banking. So crypto is not much different. I think security is super important, cyber security actually, because now before the hackers were hunting the crypto exchanges, but the security level got increased. I mean, security basically got improved. So now they're rather targeting individual investors.
Right. So watch yourself.
Watch yourself, definitely. Watch yourself, store your money, and if you're trading, then be sure that it's an investment tool, and it needs some knowledge, requires some knowledge to trade it on quite professional level. Use the simulators to play with virtual money, with not existing money. Electronically faked money, open and close a few positions, get some knowledge, some experience, and only after that you can trade on professional level. It usually takes around years, but it's a great profession. I think I'm a small trader myself, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energies, because you also need to watch all the trends. You need to analyze things. You need to take risk. You barely sleep unless it's automized. So it's a profession, and I already do have mine, so I don't think I'll be able to handle two of them. Actually, there is a very interesting book. It's called Bitcoin Money Book, and that explains the concept of Bitcoin in a very basic way, understandable for the kids.
So if I'm here in Prague, would you recommend like going to Paralelní Polis and saying, hi, I know nothing about this, but I'm interested in the philosophy behind it. Tell me about it. Are they open to that? Are they not open to that?
Yes, this is definitely a place where everybody can go and learn the basics of crypto. They are absolutely welcoming. They can teach you how to buy your first crypto. So yeah, it's still a very open place if you want to know. But plus, there is a lot of content online that will explain you in a very basic way how to do it. But I think the best knowledge comes with experience. So for example, through a very simple process of buying coffee, you can learn the essentials of crypto technology.
And of course, the question a lot of people listening to this will ask is, do they speak English?
No, foreign languages is not a problem there. I think they're even able to explain it in more than one language. Not only Slovak, English, but also Spanish.
Sure. I think in many ways you could say, for at least people like me who are on the outside looking in, modern alchemy you might call cryptocurrency, because it seems kind of like alchemy to me.
Especially when you can mine crypto. Yeah, when you can actually create it out of nothing. But in fact, it consumes a lot of energy and consumes a lot of memory of your computer. So now it is being mined by the great mining pools and factories. But to some extent, yes, crypto is an alchemy. I'm not this person who is kind of against KYC and privacy stuff. I just know it's needed, because I worked on another side, right? I worked in the authorized payment institution, and I know why it is important to know your customer. KYC means know your customer. And I also didn't want to, it's like knowing your neighbor, right? You prefer to live in the surroundings when you know who your neighbor is, if it's the safe network. I mean, some people might disagree. Some people still think they prefer to live in a bubble, but I'm very social. And I like to interact with people. I think we can only achieve greater things when we work together and when we do care about each other, right? All together, like we are using this, we separate trash. We are kind of keeping an eye on each other, like maintaining the safetiness of the network. So for me, it's important. I mean, sooner or later, it will be part of our lives because the world is going digital, and we all need to keep up with the technologies.
Settlements grow into villages. Villages turn into cities. The cryptocurrency world right now is a digital virtual village that is slowly becoming a city. And here in the city of Prague, cryptocurrency very much has firm roots. Just like we're in the center of Europe geographically, Prague is also in the center of what might be the future of finance and digital freedom. It's super interesting stuff. It's a brave new world. I'd like to thank my guest, Maya Bersheva, who is the community manager for the Czech Republic for Binance, the largest crypto exchange in the world. Thank you for talking to me today, Maya.
Thanks, Derek, for having me. And I would maybe like to address the audience. I think despite of what's happening, all the terrible stuff that is happening in the world, we're living in a very interesting and important life. The world is changing, and crypto is one of the technologies that are actually changing the world. So enjoy the show, or be part of the show.
Right, yeah.
Because I think this is the time our kids are going to remember. Yeah,
right.
Enjoy the show. Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. And thank you everybody out there for listening to this episode of Prague Times. Thank you for listening to this episode of Prague Times. If you liked this episode, be sure to like it or share it and tell your friends. Check us out on all of our social media platforms for extra goodies as well. Until next time, this has been Prague Times.